Well, hopefully the Caribbean cruise and the California wine tour were worth it, because it looks like all the Trump prosecution perks and exotic adventures are over for Fani Willis in Georgia. On Thursday, a state appeals court ruled that not just her boyfriend Nathan Wade has to go, but she has to go too. On account of her corruption, neither she nor anyone else from her entire Fulton County District Attorney's office can prosecute her Trump racketeering case, in which she brought nearly 150 different charges against 19 defendants, Trump included, all of it related to supposedly trying to steal the Georgia election in 2020. Now, of course, simple dismissal from the case is treatment far too kind, actually, insofar as her conduct was corrupt or appeared to be corrupt, as the court found, which raises an interesting question. Why did it appear to be corrupt? Well, hey, see that winged animal over there? You know, the one with the bill and the oily feathers and the webbed feet? That sure appears to be a duck, does it? Well, maybe it appears that way because it is that way. Maybe it appears corrupt because it is corrupt. But will there be any accountability for that corruption? Apparently not, other than getting kicked off the case. No charges for Fani for laundering public money through her boyfriend to get fun personal perks out of it. And there's no accountability by vote either. Fulton County residents love the ripoff and the scam, actually, as long as it's a scam supported by the Democratic Party, of course. So Fani Willis just won re-election last month. Recall the timeline of how this scandal broke. Fani Willis brought these charges in August of 2023. And then in January of this year, Ashley Merchant, the lawyer for one of the defendants, Michael Roman, a Trump campaign staffer, filed a motion to dismiss the case on account of what she revealed as a personal romantic relationship between District Attorney Willis and the man she hired to handle the prosecution, Nathan Wade. A man very curiously hired because he had no prior felony prosecution experience. And this was a massive case, not just in the actual volume of defendants and evidence and charges, but massive in its public profile. This was a case that was going to receive a lot of attention and a lot of scrutiny, so it was a case that had to be handled well. How the inexperienced Nathan Wade was ever qualified to meet that level of skill? Never explained, but it's because he wasn't hired for skill. He was hired to funnel sugar, and he did that well. Through investigation, Merchant had discovered 4 separate instances of Willis and Wade taking vacations together, all of it after Wade was hired to work this case in 2021. Vacations in Miami, Aruba, Belize, Napa Valley, California, and more, accounting for about $15,000 worth of benefits for Fani Willis. This as part of hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled to her boyfriend as supposed pay for his work, a total strangely higher than other special prosecutors assigned to this case received. But Nathan Wade just did way more work, is what we're supposed to believe, from tropical beachside locations. And sure, they did travel together, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade said, but she reimbursed him for her share of all of the expenses in totally unaccounted cash from an unspecified piggy bank as part of racial tradition.
So the cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank?
I have money in my house.
You have money in your house, so it was just money that was there.
When you meet my father, he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times. Now, I don't know why this old black man feels like that, but he does.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash.
And besides, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade only became romantic through this coincidental job opportunity, they said. They bonded in love through their shared commitment and service to the law and to justice, but they were not involved prior, until the evidence showed they were absolutely involved prior. Friends and associates testified they saw the action personally way back when, and cell phone data showed Nathan Wade making late-night Fani Willis house calls dozens of times prior to his hiring. It's the financial arrangement through the personal relationship that is the scandal here. Much of this has been minimized as a gossip question, like it's just policing who was sleeping with whom. No, it's about taking public money and paying it in large sums to your boyfriend so that he can then buy you nice things of personal benefit in return. That is the scandal. And so in March, the judge on the trial, Scott McAfee, decided that the appearance of that corruption, again, not the actual corruption, because we can't vet Fani Willis's traditional African piggy bank, but the appearance of corruption was sufficient to give Fani Willis a choice. Either her boyfriend Nathan Wade is off the case, or she is. They cannot work this case together. Nathan Wade then resigned, and Fani Willis has continued since, but the case has not progressed. It's only going through further steps to waste more taxpayer money, evaluating Fani Willis's waste of taxpayer money. After that ruling, lawyers for Trump and the other defendants appealed, saying that judge didn't go far enough, that Fani Willis herself must be disqualified from the case. And that's what was just decided on Thursday. Upon review, the appeals court agreed and said, yep, Fani Willis, you are gone. You cannot prosecute this case anymore. In a 2-1 panel decision, the appeals court stopped short of granting the defendant's request to dismiss the entire case on account of Fani's corruption, but agreed that Fani's conduct was sufficient to disqualify her from the case. The court reasoned that even though the trial court judge had determined that the appearance of impropriety was proven, not actual impropriety, but just the appearance of it, because nothing had been done to correct that appearance of impropriety that was present throughout the case's handling, and because there is no other remedy to restore the public's trust in the case, Fani must be disqualified. The dissenting judge said the decision was a departure from precedent in Georgia case law, citing a series of decisions that establish that demonstration of actual impropriety is necessary to disqualify a prosecutor. Appearance of impropriety on its own is not enough. And since the trial court judge determined it was an appearance and not actual, the appeals court must accept that finding of fact and does not have the authority to question that conclusion. So Fani should stay, according to the dissenting judge. Okay, so now what? More appeals, of course. Despite the setback and despite the practical reality that Trump will be president before any of this is resolved, meaning the case is almost certainly not prosecutable anyway, Fani Willis still wants to keep it, and so she is now appealing to the Georgia Supreme Court, intending to raise many of the same arguments from that appeals court dissent.
We're asking the Supreme Court to review the Court of Appeals decision, she said, the Supreme Court of Georgia. She said hopefully the Supreme Court will take this decision up for review, that obviously the DA's office does not agree with the decision. The DA told us a dissent by one judge on the 3-judge Court of Appeals panel speaks to some of the points that the state will be raising on appeal.
But notice the uncertainty in that statement. I sure hope the Georgia Supreme Court takes this case. Well, they might not. They might just leave the appeals court's decision to disqualify Fani in place and never hear the case at all. Or maybe they take the case and they affirm the appeals court's decision, adding more detail to the state's disqualification precedent. But even if they do that and Fani is officially, finally forced off of this case for good, it is still not totally dead. There is still a path for this zombie case to rise again because so far the courts have not dismissed the case entirely. If this appeals court decision holds, neither Fani nor anybody else from her entire Fulton County DA office can prosecute the case, but the decision for how to handle it going forward goes to the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of the state of Georgia. That director doesn't have to assign the case to anybody necessarily. He could just drop it. In February, that director said he would only assign the case to a prosecutor who actually wants it. And sure, there are plenty of political reasons that Democrat prosecutors in neighboring counties would want it, but there are practical realities too. This is a massive case demanding massive resources and, Nathan Wade notwithstanding, massive experience and know-how too. It's not that easy just to take on a case of this volume. And the other complication is it's not even legally clear that anybody can while Trump is president. In a separate appeal, Trump's lawyers are seeking a full dismissal of the case due to Trump's presidential election because you can't prosecute a sitting president. At least that is Justice Department policy. Now, it's never been attempted from a state prosecutor, but if they tried it, there would be a mountain of obstacles. So most realistically, nobody is prosecuting this case before 2029. If they try, they'll get tied up in appeal hell way deeper than even Willis-Wade Vacation Gate was. So it's over. And not even it's over like maybe we can land a Hail Mary because we're playing against the oblivious and overconfident Bears defense. Maybe we can catch them on something they missed. Or, well, they're celebrating prematurely and they'll embarrassingly tip it to our guy on accident. No, it's actually over. Even the theoretical paths just have too many obstacles in them. And so what I thought was the most serious criminal case against Trump on account of his inability to escape any conviction through a presidential pardon because it's a state case ends in perfectly fitting fashion because of the corruption and the incompetence of those who brought it in the first place. As far as the rest of the lawfare, that's effectively dead too. Remember, special counsel Jack Smith's cases are gone because Trump will soon be in charge of the Justice Department again. And the last remaining criminal case, the Stormy Daniels hush money case that nobody can even explain in New York, Trump was convicted, but the sentencing in that case is now indefinitely postponed due to Trump's election. And because of the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity, it faces significant problems on appeal since it used evidence from Trump's time in office to get that conviction. The judge in that case rejected an outright dismissal on Monday, and prosecutors want that one frozen until 2029 too. Of course, Trump won't be going to prison while president, but it's also possible the judge chooses to end it with a lighter sentence and the case is done, and everybody just goes home, though Trump probably would still appeal the conviction and any punishment on those presidential immunity grounds. So that's it. For all the hype, these prosecutions have now all been undone by a combination of weak evidence, twisting the law beyond its intent and prior application, a thirst for money and personal enrichment even greater than the thirst to get Trump itself, and, most importantly, rejection from voters. The election was decided in Trump's favor despite all of it. And in the end, it's all just a tool tried, not an abuse committed legally. Does Nathan Wade have to pay back the hundreds of thousands of dollars he collected? No. Does Fani Willis have to demonstrate that she actually paid her share of those perks? No. It's not just that this entire collective effort was nothing more than politics and campaign spending in disguise. It's that these campaigns actually sent us the bill. Fani Willis got millions in public money to go after the backlog of criminal cases left over from the COVID era. But she actually spent much of that money on trying to get Trump and personal vacations. Jack Smith, the federal special counsel, spent over $50 million on 2 Trump investigations and attempted prosecutions that went nowhere, just up in smoke, other than they served the campaign needs of Democrats for the election cycle. So it's not just that the Kamala campaign was over $1 billion raised and spent in just a few months' time. The party's campaign was actually tens of millions more in money taken from the public forcibly under the guise of law enforcement. People who are supposed to be protecting you from crimes and bringing those crimes to justice instead diverted their attention and their resources to interfering with your right to select your political leadership and charging you for the effort. In that respect, Fani Willis isn't even all that special, actually. She's just part of the trend. And I think even Nathan Wade would acknowledge that point. What actually attracted him to her? Was it really something special about her personality or her talent or her pillowcase of mashed potatoes figure? Or was it just that unaccountable piggy bank that she talked about? No, not the authentic African one, the other one. The one in which taxpayers are forced to deposit and she handles the withdrawals. I'd assume that was pretty attractive since Nathan Wade is totally unable to recall much of anything about Fani otherwise.
My question is, did you travel with her in 2021?
I'm not recalling any travel in 2021.
So it's not yes or no, you just don't remember?
I'm not recalling any travel in 2021.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
No.
Despite all that brain fog, he was still plenty sharp enough to prosecute Trump, of course. He just needed a few more checks. and a few more booty calls, or maybe a few more mashed potato helpings to finally unleash all of that prosecutorial prowess. And if that sounds unlikely or far-fetched, well, in fairness, you just wouldn't understand, because scooping public money to service low-quality women is likewise a very obscure cultural tradition. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.